Argentina hosting Wales this weekend, folks. Nations Championship. Wales will be racking up some air miles as they head over to Argentina, having been playing in the UK last week. Argentina lost to the Scots last week at home, so we'll need to bounce back. I feel like they often start, maybe it's just a gut feeling, but the Argentinians, I feel like, sometimes start a bit slowly. But then they usually don't have two kind of poor performances in a row. Let's see how well they bounce back this weekend against the Welsh. We'll go through the squads which have been named, some stats, predictions. You guys can let us know your thoughts on how you reckon this week's game is gonna go. The Argentinians have made a handful of changes for the Welsh coming to town. The big man I am looking forward to seeing back in Argentinian colours is Marcos Kremer. The big flanker is back in the number 7 jersey this week, but if you were looking to see him partnering Matera like they have done so many times, you won't see that initially anyway, because Matera drops to the bench for this one. Grondona switches to number 6, and Oviedo is still there at number 8. So you'll expect to see a lot of carries from Oviedo at 8, and Kremer likely being there up the top end of the tackle count for the Argentinians anyway, with Matera, I guess, coming on for Grondona at some point, but we'll see how things pan out. Wenger, Montoya, and Rapetti is a changed propping stocks combo because the two bench guys are starting this week. Remember, Rapetti got a try from the bench last week, so he's still a pretty young man, but his rugby is improving the more experience he gets. Alemano and Petty continue on in the second row. Petty brings up his 100th cap, so that's a massive congratulations to him, a week after Alemano did it the week before. And in the backs, Garcia and Albanaz are still the preferred 9-10 combo. Albanaz, I think, was another guy getting his hands on the ball a lot. He is a really can be inspiring running 10, so when he gets his game going, he can be hard to live with. They did a lot of running off 8 and a lot of running off 10 last week, and it works when he gets himself into some space. And also they are bolstered by the return of Justo Picado. He's finished his top 14 duties, so he is back in the number 12 jersey. That is a kind of more natural 12 fit for the Argentinians. They had to kind of do without their normal guys at 12 last week, with Valerolo filling in at 12 in the absence of Picado and Chocobares. So there'll be a little bit more confidence, I feel like, in the midfield combo. Sinti was busting tackles at 13 last week, so he continues on. Delgui replaces Iskro. It'll be interesting to see if they kick balls for him to chase, like what they were doing with Iskro a couple of times last week. Mateo Carreras is still there, and Santi Carreras continues on as that second playmaker at 15. Ruiz, Vivas, and Machete are the front row replacements, so Machete comes in. Molina is still there. Matera, like I said, drops to the bench. Benitez Cruz is the replacement halfback this week. Moroni is still there. And the speedster Mendy comes in as the backline replacement. So, yeah, expect Montoya to be doing the tackles alongside Kremer. Expect a lot of carries from number 8. Look for Albanaz to get into some space. Potentially kicks for the wings. And, yeah, Petty will be your main line-out man for Argentina. For the Welsh, good win last week. They were kind of written off against Fiji, even the game was being played in Cardiff. They tackled the absolute house down, and they've kept things relatively stable. Like, Steve Tandy talked about kind of wanting to freshen things up a bit. I watched his pre-match press conference before I saw the lineup. With the travel and whatnot, wanting to keep things fresh, he's kept things very stable. He's hardly changed anybody, really, in the scheme of things. Like Reece Carey, Dewey Lake, Dylan Lewis. No changes in the front row. I wonder what odds Reece carries on for scoring a try, because that man loves getting over the whitewash. Ben Carter, Adam Baird, no change in that department either. So the type 5 is 100% unchanged. We saw really good kind of maul power from the Welsh last week against Fiji, so I will be curious to see if they employ that same weapon against the Argentinians. Both of them is one of the changes in the back row. Jack Morgan and Aaron Wainwright, so they're really hard working back row. Both of them and Morgan both love a high tackle count. Morgan was incredible last week. 2 tries from the mauls. He was their top tackler with 17 and 1-2 turnovers. Like Ben Carter also had 14 tackles. Adam Baird had 13 tackles. So there's a lot of tackles in the Welsh forward pack. And Aaron Wainwright, one would again expect to be getting through a lot of the work at the back. Thomas Williams and Sam Costello is the new 9-10 combo. So Costello comes in for Dan Edwards. I feel like he's had a little bit, I don't want to call it a renaissance, but Sam Costello used to get a lot of grief, and then he's had a few decent performances for Wales at 10. So I'm kind of hoping he edges towards that direction as career trajectory. But Thomas Williams is likely going to be the focal point of the back line, isn't he? Because, I mean, how many kicks did he put in last week? It was the vast majority, 11 kicks. They're going to do a lot of kicking off 9 and see how the lads chase. So he's going to be, I would say, shouldering more of the burden in terms of some of the decision-making in the backs. Hawkins and Eddie James continue on in the midfield. James was good value for a try from the second half. And Josh Adams, hard work rate, man, with that try that he got between the legs of the Fijian winger, Ravatomanda. The veteran still keeps chasing everything hard. Alice Mee comes in for Reece Zammit, and Blair Murray is still there at fullback. He topped the Welsh run meters, which is not unsurprising for a fullback, to be fair. Elias brings up his 50th from the bench if he comes on. Congrats to him. Nicky Smith, Ben Warren continue on. Teddy Williams and Kane James will be getting his debut from the bench, so a couple of changes there. Kieran Hardy, Max Llewellyn's in, and Reece Zammit's dropped to the bench, so 5-3 split for both sides in this one. For the stats, Argentina last week, there were some positives. 100% line out, 100% on restarts received. So there were kind of those set piece elements which were going well for them. But boy, did they concede some line breaks. 10 line breaks conceded against the Scots. They were at times just being cut to bits. They started with a real hiss and a roar, but too often were cut to bits by the slick passing of the Scottish backline. Now, Wales is going to be a different prospect because when you look at the Welsh stats, they were very clean. Like 6 penalties conceded is really low. They won 7 turnovers, which is cracking, and especially when you've got a lot of hard tackling players. But what they didn't really do was generate those kind of line breaks and defenders beaten and whatnot. They had 3 line breaks and 11 defenders beaten in the entire game. So the kind of X factor sexy stuff was a bit lower. It was a bit more kind of conservative, playing to your strengths, going to the maul from the Welsh. So it's a different challenge for the Argentinians to face this week. Less likely to be cut to bits by massive cutout passes from the midfield, more likely to be threatened at set piece and maul. But I don't know, it should be a pretty fascinating one to see how things go. The recent history, there's a draw in there, but the other 4 games, there's 3 Argentinian ones to the 1 Welsh win. The last time they played was in Cardiff last year. It was a bit of a blowout, 52 points to 28. So the average score across the last 5 is 29-19. The Argentinians tend to be pretty decent value over the Welsh. The bookies have got the Argentinians as favourites at home, 17 points. The Rugby Forecast algorithm goes a step further, saying Argentina by 19 is on at San Juan. It is the last of the games. It's a kickoff 4:10 local time, which is like 7 something in the morning for those of us in this part of the world. Should be a nighttime kickoff for you guys over in the UK. New Zealander Paul Williams is the ref. But you guys let us know your thoughts. How well do you reckon the Welsh will go on tour? Do you think the Pumas bounce back? I would incline to believe that the Pumas are going to bounce back. But I don't know. They're kind of a hard side to predict. Fingers crossed it's a good game. You guys take care. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.